Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays, and today we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy V banner. Almost misspoke there, but here we are. And today we're going to take a look at it and see, is it any good? Should you pull on it? And really, yeah, is it any good? So let's get some music going and just talk about it, because the Final Fantasy V banner was definitely interesting when it popped up. And a little disappointing, to be totally honest. I was really hoping for, a new version of Fang. But here we are, so we just have to make good with what we have. So looking at this new banner, honestly, it's not terrible. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's terrible. So yes, we have 3 split banners as well as a 25k step up. Now, if you look at the 25k step up, this is probably one of the least impressive step ups that I've seen in a long time. Just a up rainbow rate on step 4, nothing else except the guarantees on step 3 and step 5, and 2, well, unsatisfactory tickets means that this will be pretty much just a mediocre banner, I feel like. Or a mediocre step up, I should say. In terms of 25k Lapis, you'd probably be better waiting and just spending it on the Moogle King than spending it on this step up. But what is nice, even though it's a triple banner, is that you will notice that we have 3 separate banners. That's right. You can target the character of your choice much easier, and I want to thank, that we didn't have just all 3 on a single banner, because that shit's got to stop, both on this side and the global side. So let's take a look at them. And we'll start with Krile. Krile is really surprising. I never thought we would see a upgraded version of Krile. Really, with the Moogle, really reminds me of Aiko, and that's, that's pretty cool. And that limit burst, though, that's pretty cool. I like that. Look at this. Bang, 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 bang. Oh, I'm an angry dragon. Anyway. And I gotta say, if one thing that I will not critique at all is the animations for these 3 characters. The animations are actually absolutely freaking awesome. I really, really love them. Yes, so let's talk about Krile first. We'll just pop right back out here and take a look. First of all, her TMR is a 50% magic boost as well as a 5% per turn MP recovery. Again, this feels really, really power creepy. You can find basically the same thing on a 4-star. And yeah, a 4-star is, it's pretty much the same thing. And this is just a little more magic. So do you need this? Not super much, but if you're looking to get a better quality unit, then I guess you'll take this. Anyway. Continuing on, Super Trust Mastery is a hat, and actually probably one of the best magic hats in the entire game. 32 defense, 60 magic, 32 spirit, resist paralysis, and 100 MP. This thing is pretty freaking awesome, I have to admit. I love this hat a lot. Is it worth going for? Super TMR-wise, I think there's been more impressive stuff. Looking at Krile's stats, with pots and passives, she can get about 756 magic, and that's, I believe, without door pots. I don't think Exdeath database has been upgraded to consider door pots yet, but yeah. 750 magic. Base magic stat is a 215, which is a little bit weaker than some of the top tier mages, so Krile is kind of interesting. I guess we should talk about her kit. First of all, her limit burst, this thing, pretty damn strong. Where did it go? There it is. Single target, 3 hit, lightning attack, 3700 magic attack with a boost of 200% magic for 5 turns to caster. That's pretty damn good. It's also a multi-hit attack, so, double Kriles could have a little bit of chaining here. And it is a pretty high, magic, or pretty high, percentage on it, just for seeing that. And it's elemental. Definitely Krile, I think, might end up working really well with lightning. But yeah, looking at Krile's kit, she has a lot of passives. She has, some MP. She gets 7% MP recovery per turn. She has some boosts to summon damage. She has some extra spirit. She has killers in her kit, interestingly enough. versus beasts as well as fairies. She gets extra Esper stats, which kind of makes sense. She seems to be kind of a summoner. Natural double casting of her abilities. She has some true dual hand magic in her kit, which is nice. Extra limit burst fill rate, extra limit burst damage of 1.3 times, which is great because her limit burst is pretty strong. And yeah, she gets some extra modifiers and some limit burst crystals per turn. So all of that is pretty good in general. Looking at the rest of her kit is very much focused on two specific elements, wind and lightning. She has multiple different attacks. She also has some AoE heal and MP heal, as well as filling a couple of summon gauge per turn. That's pretty nice. She has some summon hit attacks as well in her kit. She has dual casting magic she can consume. Now, interestingly enough, and she is basically another hybrid user, meaning that she will calculate for both magic and spirit. Looking at her spirit stat, it's okay. Definitely magic is higher, which isn't necessarily bad because there does exist true dual hand magic on the JP side. She has some buff abilities to also give, some extra magical killers versus beasts and fairies, which is kind of interesting, and some AoE heals over multiple turns. So a small buff and a couple extra things. Then she has a couple of chaining abilities, which might be the more interesting thing. First of all, her lightning and her wind both debuff for 60% for 4 turns to the enemies, as well as just hit AoE together. The lightning one is a 16 hit move, where the wind one is a 12 hit move. This is the thing that I think is kind of interesting about Krile, is the fact that she is a lightning magic chainer. In a party with CG Sakura, she could probably do really well for herself by having a lightning finisher too. That might be a little bit difficult, trying to shove 2 magical chainers as well as a magical finisher into a party, but it is a potential thing that could happen. And of course, wind is a pretty good element too, so nothing to complain about here. Her lightning also pairs her well, potentially really good with lightning. In terms of chaining ability, it doesn't seem anything that special. And looking at her 7-star kit, she gets some stacking thunder and wind damage attack. She gets a new Esper gauge attack that is a pretty strong hybrid attack, but interestingly, it's all magic. It's nothing from the spirit side. So I'm really curious if that is much stronger than I think it is, because her ability that she can access at any time for 82 MP consumes Esper orbs as well, for 1750% hybrid attack, where it's all magic and it debuffs for lightning and wind resistance. So it might be really good. She also has a couple of cooldowns that can heal MP, HP, fill some summon gauge, as well as give her access to just triple casting for 4 turns. And honestly, Krile's kit is kind of weird. I think that it's strong, but I don't know how strong it is. Looking at her stacking damage abilities, maybe there is some really nice stuff here. They're basically bigger versions of her weaker ones without the elemental debuffing. So, and they stack damage too, excuse me. But yeah, Krile might be a really, really, really good magic chainer with some Esper attacks thrown in the mix too, as well as some HP heals. But is she super exciting? It doesn't feel like it. I could be horribly mistaken, but nothing about her seems super overpowered. But there is the potential there with the elemental chaining that she's much stronger than I think she is. Without testing her, it's kind of difficult to say. Let's head back out. Next up, we'll talk about the tree himself, Exdeath. And let me tell you, this is just one of my favorite sprites in the entire game. Taking a look at this bad boy, man, does he look fucking cool. Yeah, I get it. The original sprite definitely looks pretty much like the 3-star sprite, but they've added a lot nicer flair with the void, and his limit burst is just super cool. Black fucking hole into the void. Void, 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 void. Look at my void hole. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Exdeath. Now, Exdeath is kind of the one that ended up maybe just being the most boring of anything here. And I guess I should qualify that a little bit, but first of all, let's talk about his TMR. It is a 52 magic accessory with 10% extra magic, some dark resistance, and some defense. As far as accessories go, I think this is pretty good. I think this is actually really good. I might even want to TMR Moogle container it someday, but not today. And his Super Trust Mastery ended up being a materia with 60% magic and 50% killers versus insects, plants, and humans. One of those is much more valuable than the other, so yeah, probably a pretty good Super TMR, but contextually good, only good in certain spots. Now, looking at his passives and his stats, statistically, I mean, 217 magic feels a little bit better than what Krile did in terms of base magic, extra 65 points put in. Looking at with his pots and passives, he can hit a much higher magic stat just naturally than Krile can. And that could mean that Exdeath is pretty strong, but we really got to kind of consider his kit. So let's talk about his Limit Burst first. His Limit Burst, Eternal Emptiness, maxed out as an AoE 20 hit, 3,500% magic attack, debuffing Spirit for 60% for 5 turns AoE, and self 200 MP recovery. The debuff on the Spirit is super nice. Pretty strong ability. It does cost a fair amount with 38 crystals. And I do believe it also... No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't give him any kind of extra casting. So, yeah, it seems fine. Doesn't seem super... I mean, maybe it's really strong, but without... One thing I like about Krile's is that her kit kind of supports the elemental damage. And this doesn't have elemental damage. It is a pretty strong, it does feel like it is a pretty strong Limit Burst, but it's not even remotely chaining, so yeah, it might not be as good. He has Gravity, Osmos, Dispel, Firaga, Blizzaga, Thundaga, Graviga, and Meteor for his magic spells, which is kind of just a okay mix. Not even Dispelga though, kind of feels definitely a little bit bad. Looking into his kit, he's got a lot of passives for, of course, you know, different things. Interesting extra magic when equipped with a sword. So I guess you want a magic sword on him. I don't know. Kurosame's Super TMR still finding use, I guess. He gets 10% MP return, which is a lot. He also has a lot of killers in his kit. Looking at it, he has killers versus humans. He has killers versus birds. He has killers versus beasts. He has killers versus plants and insects. There's a fair amount, and I think that might be one of the things that maybe will make his kit much better. He also gets some natural Limit Burst return, Sleep, Silence, Confuse resistance. He has natural double casting in his 6-star form. He has natural triple casting in his 7-star form. At least I think, unless it's let's see what, just to make sure real quick that, okay, his triple casting is his TMR. Kind of thought that. It's not listed on the Exdeath database yet. He has true dual hand magic. He has an increase in Limit Burst damage of 1.5 times when he gets up to level 120. Really, lots of nice passives and stuff in his kit, and his kit is based around 3 different elements: wind, earth, and darkness. Now, looking in his kit, his 6-star has access to basically his stacking damage, where they can get stacked 5 times. To a fairly high percentage. You're looking at 500% base plus an extra 250% or 250%, yes, per time used. So he can stack some damage pretty nicely. These are also 5-hit abilities, and the way I've understood it is that I do believe that it is, excuse me, Chaos Wave chaining. It is not the Ellie style chaining. I don't think he chains with Ellie. Again, I haven't tested him yet, but at 5 hits, magic attack sounds like Chaos Wave. Also might be I do remember hearing something about Graviton Wave. Sucks when you're not super interested to pull these units. And therefore it makes it kind of difficult to talk about or show them off. He has ways to increase with different magic attacks that he has different ways to increase some of his other attacks, give some limit burst gauge to himself or a boost in magic. He has natural dual casting. And getting into his 7-star form, you have a more powerful attacks in the sense that they have the debuffs on them, 75% for each of his elements, wind, earth, and darkness. And his cooldowns have some extra buffs on it, as well as a big AoE hit that debuffs 100% for all of those elementals that he is good with, and gives him access to quadra casting for multiple turns. So yes, that is basically Exdeath. And Exdeath kind of feels like he just doesn't quite live up to what Soul and Ellie is. It may be that the killers are the big missing component and they are a bigger deal than I'm thinking that they are. But Exdeath's kit, I think one of the things that really tells about Exdeath's kit is that his equipment options are pretty limited. No robes and heavy armor only for magic is pretty bad. Helmets, he does have the ability to equip heavy shields, which is kind of nice. He also has, lighter armor, but really, I think it's going to be super limiting for his equipment unless you have Gold Bez is super. And last but not least, and I really do mean that, is Galuf. And Galuf, yeah, for everyone who is thinking Galuf maybe not quite good enough, guess what? Galuf probably is the best unit in this entire set. That's not to say anything bad about any of these units. I really think that all of these units are actually super good. I really do. Man, Galuf looks manly. So manly. Anyway, Sword, Super TMR, or Sword TMR, I should say, 130 attack, 30 defense, 20% HP, Super Trust Mastery, 40% to defense, HP, as well as 50% to fire and light resistance. I think this is a really strong Super TMR just because it has some elemental resistance too, and that's pretty nice in this day and age. So yeah, not much else to talk about there. Now getting into his, well, I guess we should talk about his kit first. Really focused only on defense. He will be able to get a pretty nice defense with all the passives and what he has. Also 65 extra points put into it. Spirits, okay. Spirit actually feels probably better than I think it is. Anyway, Spirit stat looks really nice too, but mostly he's a defense tank. Now his Limit Burst, maxed out, 7-star, is a 14 hit, 1500% physical attack, AoE 45% damage reduction for 4 turns, so it's a literal power creep on Seghart. It is 1 turn more with pretty much I do believe the exact same amount, but it's a physical attack that focuses on his physical stat, not his defensive stat. So ups and downs, basically. Magic-wise, he has a fair amount of magic in his kit. He has all of the Ga level spells and the Jaw level spells for those different elements, so he does have some magic capabilities too. And looking at his kit, he has some natural chance to evade physical attacks, which is kind of nice. He has natural provoke, he has 7% MP recovery per turn, confuse, petrify, and charm resistance. He gets extra stats when equipped with a sword. He has the ability to ignore a fatal attack when above 5% HP. He has some chances to counter attacks. He has some natural fire and light resistance. And when his HP falls enough, he will actually get boost to his defense and spirit. So he's just passive wise, he feels like an absolutely freaking solid tank. And looking at his kit, he has a lot of different abilities, some that even are really quite interesting, like some that cause 100% chance to be provoked, as well as doing some damage giving him some damage reduction for multiple turns. It's not a strong hit, but it gives him the chance. It gives him provoke basically, and a 25% chance, or 25% physical damage reduction, which is nice. He also has Encrust, which is pretty darn cool, and it gives an AoE buff too. He has both fire and holy chaining abilities, which is really interesting because they're 8 hits apiece, meaning that they are AT style chaining. And they actually do add resistance to the party of 65% for multiple turns. So that's kind of cool. That is a support ability and a chaining ability. Looking at his kit, he also has some debuffing for attack and defense. And he has just some, basically, your kind of cover everyone abilities, where he has the ability to cover from multiple turns and get some big damage reduction on himself. He has cooldown abilities that increases attack and defense and 60% damage reduction for 4 turns, AoE 40% damage reduction on one of his cooldowns. He has the ability to add fire to attacks for multiple turns, although this is single target, it can't be to himself, and it is on a cooldown. So it adds fire to attacks, add fire to attacks, and a 90% debuff for fire resistance for 4 turns? Also has one of those for light, too. So he can also debuff his last ability, the 54 MP ability that... Where is it? There it is. That is a 8-hit attack that still debuffs for fire and light resistance for 3 turns. So, yeah, Galuf, pretty fucking strong physical tank. Now, let me talk in general about these 3, because this is where the metal meets the road, and I talk about whether you should pull or not on this banner. First of all, I'm not entirely convinced or sold on this banner. There's a lot of things that raise big question marks to me. First of all, Exdeath. I don't think Exdeath's kit is super exciting. I think that he is probably okay and maybe better than we think because of the killers. But he doesn't, nothing about him jumps out and says, oh yeah, you need me. I mean, looking at Soul too, Soul seemed really, really top tier, and Exdeath kind of feels like that too. But I'm a little less convinced on Exdeath, mainly because I'm not super familiar with his chaining ability. It looks to be Chaos Wave. And then the question is, who does he chain with? Because from what I've been told, it's not Ellie. Next up, Krile. Krile is probably, if you're looking for a Thunder Magic chainer, this is your girl. She also has Wind too, so the multiple elements is super nice. And she has some summon attacks, which will effectively do a fair amount of damage because of the way they are hybrid attacks, but they are focused entirely on magic, which is pretty nice since magic is how you will be building her. She also has some good support in her kit. Is there anything that makes her look super OP? No, but she probably can pair pretty nicely with some Thunder units in the game. So, and Thunder isn't a specifically bad element, so yeah, I think Krile is potentially pretty good too. And Galuf. Galuf, if you already have Seghart, probably not worth going for Galuf. But the more I think about Galuf, the more I think that he's just the best unit on this banner. He's a solid tank that has the ability to gain W cast too. And that's the one thing I didn't talk about. His counter does give him access to basically W cast for, I believe... Where is it? I know that it's in here somewhere. Or wait, does he? I thought he had W. Huh. I don't see that anywhere in his kit. I wonder if that is a misprint. So I thought he was supposed to have W cast, but I don't see it anywhere in here. I'll check up on that and get back to you. I still think Galuf is very strong. And Galuf might actually be worth pulling for. Why? Because Galuf has 2 elements that are better than Seghart, fire and light. Being able to give the fire and light element are just kind of some really nice chaining options. And fire element is great with Axstar, light element is just has a ton of support, so, and he gives a lot of fire and holy resistance, so I think that Galuf is a bit of a power creep on Seghart. Definitely you can probably still get by with just Seghart, but I feel like Galuf is a generally better one. So overall, I would say that the step up, not good at all. The separate banners, probably, I mean, ticket-wise, you're probably okay. Would I spend Lapis on these three? It depends if you're missing something. If you're looking for a magic chainer, Krile is definitely your girl, or possibly Exdeath too. But if you're looking for a physical tank, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Galuf. Anyway, so I hope that's helped you make up your mind. I think this is all three of the units on this banner are probably pretty solid. The more I think about it, the more I think that they're actually all pretty damn good. But are they worth going super hardcore for? Maybe wait till the end of the month to see if we're getting a new CG unit next month. Because it's probably barred. Anyway, you guys, that's all for now, and I'll see you next time. Talk about something else. See you then.